All right, everyone, welcome back in to another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit here, as always, with Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. And we're just off the practice fields a few hours ago. Day 2 of Patriots training camp is in the books. Another kind of non-padded session here as we get into things. A lot of work in the low red zone again. Bill said this morning, still working through some install that they didn't get through OTAs and mini camp. So another one of these slower days, but still some stuff to talk about, of course. And if you want to just get right into it, we can start on the offense because it wasn't a great first day yesterday. I think we were on the same page on that, but it was better today. A little bounce back day for Mac. There were a few bad plays sprinkled in there, but I thought overall it was a better bounce back showing from that offensive unit today.
I thought so. If it wasn't for the one interception and cards on the table, that was a really bad pick by Mac Jones. We can detail that in a little bit. But prior to that, I thought he played well for the red zone work. I mean, what kind of throws are you looking for in the red zone? Tight window and fades. And I thought he made a number of good fade throws and got some nice plays from his pass catchers as well. And then he had a really impressive tight window throw to Juju Smith-Schuster. So hit and miss. You know, I can't help but go back to last year, and I did get ready because this is going to be a theme sort of throughout this training camp here. And I remember last year when the first day was rough, and people were asking, should we be worried about the offense? And I wasn't exactly right, but I said, the thing about a training camp is pretty much any team. You don't want a team to be so lopsided that both sides can't win. So you have days where the defense wins, and then what you want to see, you don't necessarily bemoan the offense for that, but you say, all right, you want to see the competitive fire? Can they come out the next day and punch back and go punch for punch? And the two sides of the ball sort of go back and forth. And you hear players and coaches talk a lot about making competition, making the team better. And that's essentially what that is. So last year, the first day, they had that rough practice, right? And then the next day it's like, all right, well, let's see if they come back and punch back. And the next day was that practice that Greg Bedard described as, infamously the worst training camp practice he'd ever seen, which he wasn't entirely far off. Whereas today, was the offense perfect? No, they still have work to do, but I thought it was an acceptable counterpunch. There was a good back and forth between the two sides of the ball. You had guys on offense making plays. You had guys on defense making plays. So see how they build to it in day 3. And the reality is none of this is going to matter because they're non-padded practices. I don't want to say none of it's going to matter, but we'll see what happens when the padded practices get going. But I do feel like this is it was a good sign today. It was a good sign that the offense moved in the right direction. Again, not all the way there, but in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we got to 8 or 9 straight practices last year where it was just, defense wins this day, and it was consistent like that. But yeah, better day for the offense. And I know if you're looking at the tweets of the completions, it might not look great, but it was, again, that, low red zone where it's tight quarters, there's no run game. So the defense has that upper hand. And I think, in that early 7-on-7 period where Mac threw 4 straight incompletions, they were all these contested catches in the back pylon. I think they even ran the same play 2 or 3 times. So the tweets, they're skewed, and so it wasn't all that bad, but there was good. And he had two really nice touchdowns that I thought kind of highlighted the good things they have to do with Mac here. He had, we were clamoring for it all last year, play action, right? Let's get back to this play action. And his best pass throughout these 2 days was that deep. They hit a under center play action, kind of just crisscrossed, and Devontae Parker got behind Christian Gonzalez, and Mac dropped one in the bucket. And that even came when they moved it back kind of toward the high red zone and they had a little more space. And then later in an 11 period, he hit Juju on a skinny post. He beat Marcus Jones. And so, doing what Mac Jones does well, playing to his strengths. So I thought that was kind of a good sign while they're installing some of the basic things here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Again, the only thing that seemed out of the ordinary was that rollout play that Mac Jones threw the interception on, which was he rolled all the way to his right. There was nothing there. It fell apart. He tried cutting it back in, and I don't know who he was throwing it to. There's nobody nearby, but he had Kyle Duggar right between the numbers. That was the lone interception. But yeah, it's that comfort level again where he's doing pre-snap and post-snap. He's doing more of what he does best as opposed to, I think, fighting himself. And you're seeing that through these first couple of days.
Yeah. And that's like the rollout. That's the bad stuff. Like I don't need Mac Jones rolling out of the pocket because he's not that type of quarterback. So good stuff there. But mentioned Juju, really busy day for him, working out of the slot a lot. And Bill talked about him. They were asked about him before practice, and he kind of said, doing a lot of stuff that we've done here and incorporating some of the things that he's done well in Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So good. He was kind of quiet yesterday, but good to see him, take that step and be more involved, catching a few touchdowns today.
Yeah, although on Juju, and he was more involved today, I thought what was really notable is the one period he wasn't, and that was later in practice. And that's because it was Christian Gonzalez that was on him most of the time. And I thought that battle, and Juju won a couple, but I thought the battle between those two guys, those are two guys that on their respective sides of the ball are going to have monumental roles this year. So I thought watching them go back and forth, and Christian Gonzalez, again, to use this term, going punch for punch with the guy who's been 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL, was just the number one receiver on a Super Bowl team. I think that was really, really encouraging to see.
Yeah, he's been impressive. I know he got beat by Parker and Juju for touchdowns today, but he punched back. As you said, he got a pass break up on Juju.
Right, he's a rookie. There's going to be growing pains.
Exactly. There's going to be, he's working through things, but I think you can see obviously the physical tools and some of that mental stuff as well. And I'd say through 2 days he's been impressive, even though he did have, we got beat today. But that's what corners do also, right? It's not always going to be perfect. So I think it's a passing grade for Christian Gonzalez through 2 days, which is good to see from that first round pick spot.
Yeah, definitely on that. And I said this when we did the preview show, that the big thing for me to watch with him is, I feel comfortable that he's an NFL player. It's not, does he belong? It's not, can he be a starter? Is he a backup? Like he's got all the makeup of a starting NFL corner, but with any rookie, even guys who are first overall picks, there are little nuances to playing in the NFL that you just don't, you have to face NFL competition to get there. And is it, how fast does he pick up on that? Does it happen during camp? Is it a month in the season? Is it 2 months into the season? So early on, it seems like you mentioned the route by Parker that beat him. That was a pretty advanced, watching Parker go through that route, like you said, it's an over, but there was some stuff Parker was doing with the release at the top of the route that I don't think you're going to see a lot of guys do in college, especially in the Pac-12, that, and if you're Gonzalez, you see that, you register it, and now he knows, and it's a growing process, but to me, it's just that stuff. Like I want to see him now. And that was the only time they didn't do a lot of high red zone. So that was the only time we saw that, but I want to see him now cover that route again. Yeah. And to see, because I think he sort of took off, like he bit a little early, and it let Parker sort of make his move when he wanted to make it. I want to see that route again. And is he a little more patient? Is Gonzalez a little more patient when he sees that route? Because that's what you're looking for from a guy like that. It's a very little thing because he is so advanced at this point, especially for a kid who just turned 21. But all right, how does he adjust to those little nuances now? And does he start adjusting his game to them? And then it's like, all right, now we're really going here.
Yeah, that's a good point too, that he's 21, right? He's so young.
He turned 21 during minicamp.
Like, after minicamp, I think it was like a week after. So very young player for them, what they usually tend to do. But that's what the coaches say a lot, right? Any coach at any level, make a mistake once, fine, just don't let it happen again. So that'd be interesting to see if they try to attack them, something similar here as we get going. But back to pass catchers, kind of another quiet day for Tyquan. I don't know what you make of that. It's, I guess, like red zone. I mean, he had a game with 2 touchdowns in the red zone last year, but that doesn't seem like an area that suits his skill set the best. But I think he was targetless today, I believe, or he had he has like 2 targets over 2 days, and he hasn't had a catch yet in competitive team drills. So it's been a quiet start for him and Kendrick Bourne, who that was one of the battles we really talked about leading in. And they've been in a lot of 12 personnel, but when those guys are on the field, it's been pretty quiet for both of those guys.
So with Thornton, it's glass half full, glass half empty with him. On one hand, he's a burner. He's a downfield threat. He's not a red zone guy as his game exists right now. And you could look at that and say, all right, well, when they open it up and they start going full field, then he'll show up. And it's just, this isn't his forte. The counter to that, where I'm kind of leaning, is we talked about this a lot, Brian, in the wake of DeAndre Hopkins. They need a guy, and Thornton's probably the best candidate. They need a guy to emerge as that number one wide receiver. Now we know Matt Crow told us yesterday, right, what a number one wide receiver is. So that would be, you'd want your number one to be able to contribute in the red zone. And I'm not saying he has to be their best red zone threat. They're actually very well suited for the red zone between Parker, Henry, Gesicki. Like, they got a lot of big targets. And we saw it today. I think, Brian, we were talking about this after practice. I think a part of their offense is going to be guys climbing the ladder in 50-50 balls and jump balls. And I think you're going to see more of that this year than you've seen in the past. But if Thornton's going to be that guy, he can't come off the field. And that means he has to be at least somewhat of a threat in the red zone, even if he's not the main threat. And you saw flashes of it last year. Honestly, that was one of the most impressive things from him last year, I remember, was we know this guy's a burner, but the touchdown he caught in the preseason game against the Giants, the one he caught against Zappy, or from Zappy against Cleveland, where those were kind of high-level reads, where he broke off his route, especially the Cleveland one. Zappy rolls out of the pocket, the play breaks down, Zappy extends. Thornton recognized that, breaks off his route, comes back with Zappy, finds space, gets open, catches the ball for the touchdown. There was a little bit of red zone flash there. So you'd like to see that carry over. And again, maybe it still does. It's still very early. These are non-padded practices. But yeah, Bourne's not a red zone guy, and he's never been a red zone guy. And the expectations there aren't as high. I mean, that it hurts his chances of winning the battle, because if one of them if one of them pops in the red zone, it's like, all right, we know what these guys can do in the middle of the field, but hey, this guy, whether it's Bourne or Thornton, this guy's performing in the red zone. But Thornton being younger, I think he's at a spot where it's easier to develop his game. And you saw those flashes last season, plus he's 6'3". I would have liked to see a little something from him in the red zone. Maybe we see it tomorrow. I think they're going to be in red zone again heavy tomorrow.
Yep.
But we'll see. So far, he hasn't shown up in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a lot of 12 mainly, and it's Henry, Gesicki, Parker, and Juju. So they're not getting a lot of opportunities, but when they are out there, it hasn't always been great. So that's something to watch, see how that develops. But another good receiver, I think, was Demario Douglas is kind of sneaking in that fifth, or maybe not even sneaking in. I think right now he's the leader for that fifth wide receiver spot. He's working in with Mac and Mac's group, and you mentioned he looks bigger, right? I think they listed him 15 pounds heavier, but that's, a slot guy, a jitterbug in the slot, can work the short game, and they're giving him opportunities right out of the gate, which is kind of intriguing and maybe expected because they worked with him in the Shrine Bowl, right? He's got that mental side, but he's in the mix early on here.
So I don't think it was interesting today. There was a little breakout group. They were in the team was in a special teams drill, and it was that group of four receivers that we know, right? Parker, Thornton, Bourne, and Smith-Schuster. I almost said Myers. And they went over and they threw with the quarterbacks. And it's like, all right, it's no surprise that those are the four guys, but there's no fifth guy that's even like entered that group. That being said, yeah, I think Douglas is the favorite. He's gotten some first team reps. He's gotten some notable reps. I think he's made the most of it. You definitely can see the size. He was listed at 179, now 192. I don't know pound for pound that's accurate, but I saw him. I stood next to him. I talked to him multiple times at the Shrine Bowl, and seeing him now, and he looks more muscular. He looks bigger. And we'll see the play strength when the pads come on. If they use him correctly, he's not a guy that's going to get jammed anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's more, we talk about this with guys all the time. We talked about it with Tyquan a lot, especially if you're going to play in the middle of the field, like Douglas probably will. You got to be able to take hits. You got to be able to absorb hits. And you do that by having mass on your body. And 179, I don't think that's tough in the NFL. 5'8", 179, you're getting knocked around. He's still small. He's still undersized, but this is a much more realistic playing weight, and he's still just as quick at that weight, which I think is important.
Yep, I'd agree with that. But I wanted to get your thoughts, because Hunter Henry's been pretty active, right? 2 days.
Yep.
He had another touchdown or a few catches, I believe, today. But it's been kind of quiet on Mike Gesicki's part. He had that really big sprain, but he hasn't made that same type of impact in the summer here. And it's red zone, right? That's where you figured he'd make an impact. So where are you kind of at with Mike Gesicki here through 2 practices?
Look, he made a nice catch today. He made one of the plays the day-to-day, climbing the ladder in the red zone to catch a pass from Mac Jones. I'm not going to say I'm like concerned or anything. I think it goes back to the usage thing with him. Are they going to use him as a wide receiver, as a tight end? They've been in 11 a lot. That's a little bit of a surprise. And Hunter Henry's been the feature when they've been in 11. We haven't seen as much 12. That may be a more full field thing, which is kind of backwards, but maybe it is. Or maybe he's going to get more wide receiver reps and they're just still building up to that. I don't know. It's not a concerning quiet, like we sort of just talked about Tyquan Thornton, but he had the big catch today, and one big day in 2 days, like that's enough for me where I'm like, all right, I'm not super worried yet. We'll see what happens moving forwards.
Was that more of like a scout team drill, do you think, or was that
which one?
Was that like the Gesicki catch when he went up? I mean, it was a nice catch, but was that like one of those competitive drills? I thought that was more of a scout team session.
Whether it's against a scout team or not,
I mean, yeah, it's
being
nice
able
catch.
to jump that high, like
Yeah.
it was like he got up, like that was
yeah.
more like oh wow, he can get up that high and go get the ball kind of thing. Like yeah, he got away from the coverage and he was pretty open, but it was more. There was a linebacker like halfway between Mac and Gesicki, and if Mac just throws it at his chest, the linebacker is going to knock it down. The linebacker is going to be able to make a play on the ball, so he goes, "No, I'm going to put it up," and Gesicki goes up and gets it, and that's obviously a valuable skill. So, I don't remember who it was against, but however high he jumped, I don't know, but like a 35-inch vertical is a 35-inch vertical, right? It doesn't really matter who that's against.
Yeah. So that was kind of where I was at pass catcher wise. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts there that we didn't get to?
I mean, we talked a lot yesterday about how Ty Montgomery was going to be a factor in there, right? Whether that be as a receiver, whether that be as a running back. And I know this is kind of its own topic now, moving on from the pass catchers. But the thing we discussed, Brian, was can they count on him? Is he going to be out there? And wouldn't you know it, today he goes down early in practice. It was a freak play. It wasn't his fault. It was probably Trace McSorley's fault, if anybody's. Trace McSorley threw the ball 10 feet behind him in sevens. Montgomery went back to try to get to the ball, and he collided with Terez Hall, who he'd beat. So Hall's behind him, right? And he goes back. And I don't know if they went knee to knee exactly, but their legs collided. And Montgomery stayed in the game. It stayed in practice for a little bit. He did run a couple more routes. He looked fine running the routes, but it was like in between. He's shaking the leg and he's grabbing at it. And then he spent time with the trainers, did some individual jogging, but that was it. So now we'll see if he's out there tomorrow. We'll see what his status is. And Terez Hall left early as well, so we'll see with him. But this is the thing with Ty Montgomery. He's going to look really good, and then he's going to get hurt. And can you build anything around him? I have one more thought on that, but it's going to take us to another topic. So I'll just let you give your thought on Montgomery first.
Yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully the fact that he looked like he stayed out there originally, and then the fact that he went to the trainers and he was on the bike and you could see him, back there cutting and testing the ankle, and then he walked off without a trainer. Hopefully that signals maybe it was just precautionary here and it's nothing that serious, and maybe he'll miss a day or he'll just be back out there tomorrow. So hopefully nothing too serious there, because that's what we talked about, right? That's every time he's on the field, he's impressive. He looks to be that part of the third down back that has the versatility to play receiver, but he just can't stay on the football field. So it was kind of on cue that we mentioned that so much yesterday, and then he goes down here today. But hopefully it's nothing that serious. But you can go to where you were going off that.
The other thing I'd add to that is, and this is, so the news today was that Dalvin Cook is setting up a visit with the Patriots. So we don't even know if there's a visit yet, but I kind of had this thought because we talked about this yesterday, Brian. How much can you build in for Ty Montgomery, knowing that he's such a unique player, and if you lose him, you probably lose those packages. And now, all right, Dalvin Cook's coming to visit. I know Dalvin Cook doesn't have the receiver background that Ty Montgomery has, but he's a pretty capable receiver. I almost wonder if you sign him, do you build that? Because you have to figure out a way to put Ramondre and Dalvin Cook on the field at the same time, at least sometimes, if you're going to have both those guys on your roster. And it really can't be traditional 21 personnel because it's just, we don't do split backs anymore. It's as much as I wish the league did. It's been 20 years. It's not going to happen. Could you build something? And they're doing some stuff with Montgomery that's interesting, where he's lining up as a receiver and a running back and he's moving around. Could you take that stuff, put Cook in that role, and then Montgomery essentially becomes Cook's backup in those spots? And it's not a perfect 1-for-1, but could you build it in like that? And then you're not banking on Montgomery and you have depth in that role and you can make that a bigger part of your offense. I don't think that they're meeting with, look, the report about the meeting getting set up with Dalvin Cook happened before Ty Montgomery got hurt. I'm not saying that they're going out and signing Dalvin Cook to make up for potentially losing Ty Montgomery. That's not what this is, but there is an interesting overlap in the skill sets there. And I've been talking about this since back when we were doing Hopkins, and we were talking about Hopkins or Cook. Sorry, something in my eye. We've been talking about Hopkins versus Cook and all of that. And I said, I just can't get excited about Cook because I don't see how he plays enough. One, I don't see how the play time is enough for him to want to come here when he's trying to reset his value. And I don't see how the play time is enough to justify what the Patriots are going to pay him. And how can they do that? And I guess I don't know what it was today. It was a perfect storm. I just had that epiphany that, is that the setup? Is it the stuff they're trying to do with Montgomery? You take Cook, who's actually a better player, you put him in that role, and then that's how you make it work with him and Stevenson. And then you can still run that stuff. Like the cherry is you can still run that stuff without having to worry about Ty Montgomery's injuries.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then you can even run it with Ramondre and Montgomery, or Cook and Montgomery if they're all healthy. So yeah, I'm still in the same kind of boat with Cook. You can't say no to that talent if he wants to come here for a reasonable price, but it's tough to see why he would want to come here, and unless his other offer is the Jets, which when's Breece Hall going to come back, and how's that going to shake out?
Well, again, or if they have a plan for him, or they can go to him and they lay out, and they probably have to lay it out for him, right, and say, hey, we're going to get you on the field 60% of the time. Yeah. And they could do that either way. And they could say, all right, Ramondre, you're going to be the backup. I don't think they're going to do that. They shouldn't do that. They love Ramondre. I think if Cook's a better player, it's marginal. They're very similar caliber players. But if they go to him and say, all right, and this would be my pitch. And I don't know if they would do this. I don't know if they would go this far. All right, running back values are down. You're part of this running back union, that meeting. You're upset because it's becoming more of a passing game now and running backs don't have as much value, and you're unsigned right now. You need to reset your value. We're going to use you as a wide receiver. We're going to get you on the field as a slot receiver. We're going to get you on the field in line, and we're going to throw you the football. So you're going to get on the field. You're going to put up numbers. You're going to show off a skill set teams want. You're definitely going to be able to reset your value going on next year. And we're going to get you on the field with Ramondre Stevenson and do some unique stuff with that. So you guys will both play. You'll play plenty of the time. And we're going to the things we're going to have you do, the schemes we're going to have you run, the concepts we're going to have you run are going to make you look incredibly valuable to other teams around the league. Again, just my pitch, but that would be my pitch. And again, I don't even if they do that, I don't know that you're getting above a 65% usage rate. The Jets, the Dolphins, they can just go in and be like, yep, you're RB1, 70%, 80% usage rate. You're going to be on the field. So I don't know that it works, but that would be my pitch.
Yeah, and he's not a James White, or he's not catching 50-something balls, whatever. But he's a capable pass catcher. Just get the ball in his hands. I always think of was it in that Colts comeback last year where they just threw him a quick screen out wide and he took it 80 yards. So
I actually watched that game last week, NFL Network. So yes, I know exactly what play you're talking about. The game.
Yeah. So just get him the ball, and he's such a good talent still. Just let him work. So that's intriguing. And again, the visit isn't set up, it sounds like, but they're working on it. I think.
He flew New York today. He's meeting with the Jets over the weekend. I don't know if that means tomorrow. I don't know if that means multiple days, whatever. But it would make sense that hey, just come up 95 and right. Yeah. You ready to get hurt again?
Sure, maybe.
I'm saying with that, like, because Hopkins visited, we all got our hopes up, right?
And, yeah.
So are you ready to get hurt again, Brian Hines?
I don't think that one will hurt me as bad as Hopkins, but I guess
it wouldn't hurt either. Honestly, what would bug me is like they could use Cook. They don't need Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is not a guy they need to go to the mat for. DeAndre Hopkins was a guy I thought they needed to go to the mat for.
Yeah.
If they open up the checkbook for Cook, but they didn't for Hopkins, like you got Dalvin Cook, but I'm also going to be super confused.
Yeah.
Like, no, you had the guy.
If the money is close to like what Hopkins, you could have got Hopkins for,
which we now know is like $10 million.
Yeah, that'll be annoying, and it already is annoying that they didn't do that. But
yeah.
So only other thing I had offensive line, same shakeout as yesterday. Bill Murray at right guard for Mike Onwenu because he's still on the PUP list, and Riley Reef at right tackle, which looks like it's going to be the position of concern because I think Trent Brown looks good. I'm ready to believe in Trent Brown here.
Trent Brown, it's kind of, is he going to play 17 games? When he's out there, he's going to be good. It's just, is he going to be healthy? That's been the question with him, and I don't think that changes right now.
Yeah, but that right tackle spot looks like, as we've kind of figured here all along, and why we all wanted them. You were on sign one, draft one. Why we wanted them to address that position, but it was Reef today, and it's just 34-year-old Riley Reef. How's he going to handle the speed off the edge? So I know Uche gave him some issues yesterday, but that's Uche. But I think we talking that who blew by him today?
Jelani Tavaya did.
Yeah.
Which, look, Jelani Tavaya, and we can get into the defense here in a second. Jelani Tavaya had a very good day today. He did. He was good. So
he had a good day yesterday too.
Yeah. We can get into that. But yeah, Reef, when Anderson comes back, I'm surprised McDermott has gotten more looks. Maybe that's just a thing where I wonder if McDermott was here, Reef's new. They want to let him rep in the install. When the pads come on, I hope Connor McDermott gets another shot at it because I think him and Riley Reef, that should be a battle. Those are comparable players, and Calvin Anderson's a project, so like it could be. We don't really know to what level he's going to play, especially on the right side. He's been mostly left tackle, but I would hope Connor McDermott gets another shot there once it really heats up and the pads come on.
Yeah, when the pads come on, that's when that's going to get decided. But should we hear from our pals at FanDuel and then jump over to the defensive side of the ball?
Yes, let's do that.
Your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times, that's 10 times your first bet amount of bonus bets and up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be, hitting the first home run. All in the app that's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, so jump into defense. We talked a little about Christian Gonzalez already, so we'll talk about another defensive back. And I see in the comments Mike read exactly where I was going with this because Kyle Duggar had another good day. Another interception off Mac Jones, which was thrown right to Kyle Duggar, off bad pass from Mac like we talked about. But it was another good day for Kyle Duggar, and Bill was asked about him earlier before practice, and he said, guys like that, they go high in the draft, and then they get paid a lot of money. And we all know he's in a contract year here. So if he keeps stacking these, early training camp days on top of each other, could we be looking at a contract extension here for Duggar, you think?
They do like to get them done this time of year. And, is there an element of, hey, just go out there, show us in camp, you don't have any rust, and we'll get it done. We kind of had this conversation yesterday. If he hits the market, if he has the year people think he's going to have, and then he hits the market, he's going to reset the market. So it would make all the sense in the world for the Patriots to get the deal done now. For Duggar, as Mike mentioned there in his comment, like he's kind of older for a guy hitting his first free agency. He's 26. So maybe for him, he just wants to take the money while he can get the money. It doesn't mean he's going to come cheap. I don't think he's going to come cheap. This is going to be a pretty big contract. They have the flexibility to do it. But yeah, he's playing like a guy who's playing to earn a contract right now. And I have trouble giving him too much credit for the interception today because, again, Mac Jones hit him right between the numbers with no defender anywhere nearby. Shout out Mac Jones for being a good teammate and trying to get his guy paid, because now everybody's talking about Kyle Duggar's interception and the extension of that. But yeah, he's come in so far and he's done everything I think that could be asked. And we heard, I think it was Jonathan Jones today, talk about how he's taking on more of a leadership role as well, and in that communication role in the secondary with Devin McCourty gone. That's going to be a big one for the extension, because they want, these guys they pay. It's not, can you just come here and be a good football player? Can you be a leader? Can you be a face of the organization? So a guy who can communicate like that on defense, that's a leader. That's a potential captain. Those are the guys they're going to pay. So that's a big step, I think, for Kyle Duggar. Not as much the interceptions as much as it is, all right, he's taking on some communication roles. He's maybe trending towards a captaincy. Those are the guys they're going to pay. You get a couple interceptions at training camp, you get a couple interceptions at training camp. It's good, but are you going to be a foundational piece? And I think he's starting to show a little bit that he can be a foundational player.
Yeah, that was interesting from Jonathan Jones, because he's the oldest member or longest tenured member of the secondary now. So I think a lot of us kind of assumed he'd take a lot of that communication that is gone with Devin McCourty. And he was just kind of not like, that's the safety's job. And, that's a guy that Duggar falls in that role. So it looks like he could be growing there. And as you said, that would be all the more reason to give him money. But Uche was asked about his contract too, and he said his reps were talking to the Patriots. How in-depth that is, we don't know. But his big thing, he reiterated a few times, he just wants to go somewhere that he's wanted. And he said he loves it here. He's grown up here. This team believed in him in the draft. They drafted him, developed him, but he'd love to be here. But it's just a team who really wants him, and I don't know if that just screams who's going to throw me the most money to you, but that's kind of where he was at.
Yeah, that's one I think for both sides it makes more sense to wait until the offseason.
Yeah.
And he could end up having another great year and breaking the bank, but it's a tough sell if you're the Patriots to pay a guy off of, because essentially what you're doing, you're paying him off of 10 games, because he's going to come in and say, I was a sack per game player, and they're going to say for 10 games over the course of 3 seasons. So he wants to get paid like he was at the end of last year. The Patriots are going to come with the other. They need a bigger sample size, I think, to really get that deal done. So that's one that I'm not, maybe he really blows them away in camp. And if he blows them away in camp and he's willing to take a little less money, then maybe you can meet in that middle where they kind of pay him as a guy who is inconsistent. But I don't see why he wouldn't bet on himself after the way last year ended. That one I think could take a little longer.
Yeah. If he wants to take maybe something like 8 to 10 million with incentives, that could be the deal New England's looking at. But when you look at the deals that are getting thrown around for these edge rushers nowadays, it might make more sense for him to bet on himself and do that. But I just had another
look. If he comes out and plays the way he played last year, he's going to be top 10, top 5 free agent on the market. So if he does that and takes like you said, $10 million deal right now, he's costing himself. I mean, that's less than half. That's less than half of what he'd probably get.
Yep. So another secondary, Jack Jones, still with the second unit today. Still kind of just feels like they're playing like we might not have you when we start the season, so we just want to get ready without you. Because, again, he was repping with the ones during the spring and then the legal issues, and now he's with the second unit. He had a pass deflection, but he also got beat once by Kayshon Boutte on a whip route down by the goal line for a touchdown. So that's kind of where Jack Jones is right now. I don't know if you have any big thoughts on him or his role here as we move forward throughout the camp.
Yeah, that's again where I'm pretty much at. It feels like they're prepared. I don't think he got benched. Maybe there's a little slap on the wrist, kind of, hey, go with second team for a little bit. You made a stupid mistake, but I think it's more, all right, there's a chance, whether it's legal reasons, whether it's a league suspension, whether the team decides that they ultimately need to suspend him for a couple games, they got to be ready without him. And I think that's what you're seeing right now.
Yeah.
that's like this time of year, non-padded, essentially extension of spring practices. That's when you do something like that. When the pads come on, if he's still heavy majority with the second team, then you start talking about as all right, they may actually be going another way with their defense.
Yeah, but without him, with him on the second unit, we got a good look at Marcus Jones spending a lot of time on the boundary today, and Jonathan Jones in the slot a little bit, which kind of feels backwards just looking at it, but I don't know, just maybe they're just cycling through contingency plans here. I know Marcus played on the boundary sometimes last year. It kind of felt out of necessity where their cornerback health room was, but he spent a good chunk of today on the boundary with Jonathan inside.
And I mean, I thought he looked pretty good. Like you said, it's a little backwards, but if he's making plays out there, he's making plays out there. But that also suggests again that when they really get into it, they want Jonathan Jones in the spot he's going to be in. So if that's Christian Gonzalez and then Jack Jones, who right now is working with the twos because they're getting ready, but they want Jonathan Jones taking reps with where he's going to play, then you just put Marcus Jones out there kind of by default. Because again, they don't have a ton of boundary corners. Jalen Mills is repping, I want to say exclusively at safety. If he's played corner, it really hasn't been a lot. Like I haven't noticed it a ton. And then you get down to Sean Wade, Namir Speed, and Isaiah Bolden. So I think that's just sort of a placeholder thing. And you get Marcus Jones some valuable reps on the bound. It'll still make him a better slot corner, even if that's not where he ends up playing.
Yep. So you mentioned Tavai had a good day, but a lot of that in the trenches stuff will pick up when the pads come on.
Well, I would just say on Tavai, like he had a good day doing stuff that he doesn't usually do. They were trying to turn him into this do-it-all middle linebacker this time last year. It didn't work, and then he found success as an edge guy, as a strong side edge setter. But the two plays he made today, pass breakup and coverage on Pierre Strong, who, by the way, with Ty Montgomery out, Ramondre Stevenson limited, got a ton of reps today. I think he's for that number 2 back role pending Dalvin Cook. I think Pierre Strong's looking like the leader in the clubhouse right now. But Tavai had a breakup on Pierre Strong, and then he had a sack. So those are passing down type plays. Interesting to see him making some plays there. We'll see if that continues when the pads come on, but I didn't have Jelani Tavai looking like a 3-down player on my bingo card, but it wouldn't hurt if that's the thing now.
Here we are.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to end up staying on running downs, but guy makes 2 plays in the passing game who's normally not a passing game player. You make note of that.
Yep. That'll be interesting to see how that keeps developing, because he's just a solid all-around player. So he looked big too. I think he put on like 9-10 pounds if you want to believe those listed weights, but he does look like he beefed up a little bit. So we'll see where that goes, but that's pretty much all I had defensively. If you had any last final thoughts there.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Special teams, Chad Ryland handled kicking duties at the end of practice. Nick Folk handled it yesterday. Kind of a windy practice fields too, and it's tough to see from our view. He was on the other field, but I had him 6 for 6. I thought he was perfect, all within like the 30 to mid 40 range. So good start from Ryland, and he also handled kickoff duties as kind of we expected him to during the early portions of practice. So.
Yeah, and again, the kickoff things today, they were kicking the ball kind of shallow in the end zone. It's really tough to get a read on it, how they're going to handle these new kickoff rules, but we did see them do some kickoffs today. And if today was any indication, it doesn't look like they're going to change their approach much to kickoffs. Yeah,
they're booting it down. But we'll see how those competitions go. And in the stadium, we were talking about that after practice, how that looks in the stadium, not only wind patterns, but you were looking into that big video board now. That'll be interesting once we get in there. They'll be in there next Friday. I believe it's August 4th is the in-stadium practice. So that'll be.
So that's not confirmed yet, but if they keep the schedule they've kept in recent years, that's what it'll be.
Yeah. So that'll be
their schedule. They actually released the new practices today. So if anybody's looking to go, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 of those start at 9. The Tuesday one starts at 12:30. I don't know if there's a concert or something like that. Change that, but they're not scheduled. Like Friday's the first day they're not scheduled, and I don't mean they're scheduled for a day off. I mean there is no schedule. Yeah. So it lines up for that being the in-stadium practice right now.
Yep. So that'll be that. But that's pretty much all I have. I don't know. Any final thoughts or anything from player availability you want to get into quick?
I'm just ready for padded practices.
Yeah. We're at that
That's
point.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
2 days in.
This stuff we discussed it yesterday, but this is all just like a tease now. We get down there all excited, and then it's just like, all right, let's start hitting people. Let's get into this for real. But you gotta get in through the install stuff, and as they get through this basics kind of stuff. So we'll see how it goes these next few days. When do you think pads? Monday, Tuesday?
Monday. So if I understand the new CBA correctly, which is a big if, we're banking on my reading comprehension. So the rule is the first 3 days you have to be t-shirts and shorts. 4 and 5 you can use shells, and then there has to be a day off before you get to pads. So, and I didn't know this, Tuesday counts as a day. So if you do the math, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are shorts and shirts. That would leave tomorrow as the first shells day, and that would be a tell. And then they're off Saturday. Sunday, you come back out in shells. So I think we saw these couple of install days. I think tomorrow will be a special teams install day. You'll have the day off. This is me guessing. Day off on Saturday, come back Sunday, walk through tight practice to build up for Monday. And then Monday, you get into the pads on what would be day 7.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a limit for how many consecutive days there is, right? How many?
So there's not a limit for consecutive days of practice, period.
In pads, I was going to say.
Yeah, so in pads, it's 3 days.
3 days. So they could do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, the in stadiums usually
it's not going to be padded.
Yeah, if
my guess would
Friday,
be
it's lower tempo.
Monday. My guess would be Monday, and again, guessing Monday, Tuesday. Like I don't, because people will tweet at me when they go to practice. You told me it was going to be pads. It's not pads. I don't know. I'm guessing Monday, Tuesday pads. Wednesday's kind of that day where you go back through in shorts and in shirts, and you work through the things you want to fix from the first 2 days. Back in pads on Thursday. And then you go inside the stadium on Friday.
Yeah. Yep.
And then if the in stadium's Friday, I guess I'm guessing Saturday would be a day off again.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But look, the crowd's showing up for the weekdays. We had overflow today. They were up on the ramps today on a Thursday. Tomorrow should be great. And then I'm thinking Sunday we'll get a big crowd too.
Sunday should be cooler too. So
yes,
that
I can't wait.
All next week should be cooler. So that'll be good. So that's what might be on the radar here if you're looking to come down next week. Tomorrow might be a tell if they are in shells, so keep an eye out for that. But I think that will pretty much do it for day 2 recap here. They will be back tomorrow, as we just said, so we will probably be back with a show, I'd imagine, but turn on your Patriots Press Pass notifications so you do know when we go live. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Until then, go follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Go read all of his work on this training camp coverage at 985thesportshub.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines and go read all my training camp coverage over on patspulpit.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow.